Today we are going to discuss the consumer behavior. The consumer behavior means description of how consumers allocate income among different goods and services to maximize their well-being. Here we are going to learn the consumer behavior as theory of utility that explain the theory of utility explain the consumer behavior. Under the utility theory, we are going to learn meaning, definition and assumptions of utility, total utility and the marginal utility, schedule and graph of total utility and the marginal utility, the concept of diminishing marginal utility and the concept of equimarginal utility. Here we are going to learn what is the utility. The utility is an amount of satisfaction which a consumer derived from the consumption of a commodity. Whatever goods or services we buy for fulfilling our needs, it will derive some satisfaction. So this satisfaction is called as utility. So we can say utility is defined as the power of a commodity or services to satisfying a human wants. So satisfying power of a commodity or services is called utility. Economists have labeled the term satisfaction as a utility. So this utility is based on the cardinal utility concept. That means the utility of each commodity is measurable. That means utility is a cardinal concept. The other concept is regarding the utility is it is the subjective and therefore this varies from person to person. For example, here we considering three people they are buying apples. Person A, person 2 and person 3. The first person get the utility or satisfaction is 15 by consuming an apple. The second person get utility is 20 by consuming that same apples. The third pupil get 9 utility. So the utility is different by for the different pupil. So that they say subjective concept. So here we're going to look some examples is in our daily life. Here I say I bought a cell phone. So buying cell phone is for fulfilling my needs for calling or other purposes. So by fulfilling my needs I get some satisfaction. It's called utility. That means I measure this utility as 100. So I will say by consuming cell phone I get 100 utility. By consuming an apple and a laptops I get 150 utility. Then I bought a car, I get the 5000 utility. By consuming a cycle, I get 200 utility. By burger, it is 30, ice cream, it is 40, and biryani is 80. So by consuming a service like the teacher, I get 20 utility, and if I see a doctor, by consuming his services, I get 10 utility. So whatever goods or services we buy for fulfilling our needs, it will get some satisfaction. This satisfaction is called utility. So this satisfaction or utility can be measured. It's called cardinal concept. This cardinal concept is subject. That means it is varies from person to person. Here we are going to learn what are the assumptions of utility. There are four assumptions that we are going to explain here. One is rationality, other one is cardinal utility, and third one is constant marginal utility of money, and the fourth one diminishing marginal utility. Here we explain the each and every assumptions of utility. Rationality. Rationality means the consumer is rational. He aims at the maximization of his utility subject to the constraints imposed by his given income. So rationality means whenever we bought a goods or services, our maximum aims should be the maximization of utility or satisfaction. So if you want an apple, if I am a rational means when buying an apple, my aim is maximizing my utility or satisfaction. So here a person going to buy a goods, they should aims at maximization of utility subject to the constituency single. And the second one is cardinal utility. The utility of each commodity is measurable. Utility is a cardinal concept. So here we going to see if a person buying an apple, that means the Shami buy an apple, he get 50. That means whenever he buy a goods, here we tell that we can't measure the how much utility are derived by consuming a particular product or services. Here the Shami bought an apple, here we going to say that is he get 50 utility. So one other person is Raju, he get the 40 utility by consuming an apple. And the third person, Najibi, got 30 utility by consuming the same apples. So here that we can calculate or measure the utility that is derived by consuming a goods. The third one is the constant marginal utility of money. This assumption is necessary if the monetary unit is used as the measure of utility. Here we're going to learn that if you want to buy a apple, we have to spend a 20 rupees. So this 20 rupees, the spending for buying an apple with giving a 20 rupees is differently by the rich person and poor person. If a rich person spending 20 rupees to apple is entirely different from the poor person spending 20 rupees buying an apple. So here we are rejecting this kinds of utility for money. Then here in utility analysis, we will conclude that the marginal utility of money we will going to miss. The fourth one is diminishing marginal utility. That means the utility gained from the successive unit of a commodity diminishes. That means a person buy apple, he get from the first apple the 15 utility. If a person again buy the apples that same as the first apple, the utility will be less than what he get on the first apple. So it will be 13. So from the first apple he get 15 utility. Then again if buy the same apple he get the 13 utility. So the successive unit of utility are diminishing. Again, if you buy the same apple, same as the previous one, he will get the 11 utility, that is less than what he previously bought. Again, if you buy the same apple, this will get only less than what he get the utility from the previous one. Here, he get the utilities 9. So the utility from the successor unit are 15, then 13, then 11, then 9. So here total utility are increasing, but the successive unit from the additional consumption are decreasing. The first apple you get 15, second apple you get 13, third apple is get 11, and fourth apple get 09, so on. Total utility. It is the amount of utility or satisfaction a consumer get by consuming all the unit of commodity. Here we going to learn the previous example. A person bought 4 apples. From the first apple he get 15 utility, the second apple he get 30 utility, and the fourth apple he get 11 utility, and the fourth apple he get the 9 utility. So the total utility means if you summing up the all utility which derived from the all consumption of all goods. So here 15 plus 13 plus 11 plus 9. So the total utility is 48. One more example, a person bought 2 burger. From the first burger he get the 30 and the second burger he get the 20 utilities. So the total utility is 30 plus 20 is equal to 50. So one more example, a person bought the cycles, one cycles, two cycles and third cycle. He totally bought 3 cycles. The total utility is first cycle he get 200 utility and second cycle he get 150 utility and third cycle he get 100 utility. So the total utility is 200 plus 150 plus 100 is equal to 450. So here we're going to learn our example. First two apples he get the utility is 15. Again he bought an apple. The consumer get the total utility now became 28. That means first apple he get the utility of 15. The second apple they get the utility of 13. The total utility now became 28. Here the table you can see that marginal utility. Marginal utility is defined as the change in total utility due to a unit changing in the consumption of commodity per unit of time. So it can also be defined as the addition made to the total utility by consuming an additional unit of commodity. So here the formula which are using to calculate marginal utility. That means mu is equal to delta Tu divided by delta Q, where mu is equal to marginal utility, delta Tu is equal to change in total utility, delta Q is equal to change in the quantity consumed. For example, here we bought 2 apples. From the 2 apples, we get the 28 utilities. So for the first apple, he get the 15 utility. Again he bought the second apple. The total utility now became 28. Now we can calculate the margin utility by this formula. So here 28 minus 15 divided by 2 minus 1 is equal to 13 divided by 1 is equal to 13. So the marginal utility is 13. This means the total utility has changed 13 utility by adding one more unit of apples. So here we can go through nine apples. So again the consumer consumed or added one more unit of apple. The total quantity of apple consumed now became 3. So now the total utility from the 3 apples became 39. So here we can calculate what is the third marginal utility, that is the third apples. For marginal utility, it can also be defined as addition made to the total utility by consuming an additional unit of a commodity. So here we are going to calculate what the quantity, what change in total utility, how much utility is added by consuming third apples. So here we can calculate by using the formula. Here 39 minus 28 divided by 3 minus 2. So that is 11. So by consuming the third unit of apple, the consumer total utilities added 11 utilities. Again consumer consumed one more unit of apple. Now the total quantity of apple consumed is 4. Now the consumer bought the fourth apple. Total utility from the 4 apple became 48. The 48 utility total utility means the summing of the fourth apples that derived utilities. So here we going to calculate the marginal utility, that means the addition made to the total utility by consuming an additional unit of a commodity. Here the additional unit of the commodity is the fourth apple. We can calculate by fourth apple how much quantity or how much utilities that added to the total utility. So here the 48 minus 39 divided by 4 minus 3 is equal to 9. By consuming the fourth apple, we get addition to 9 utilities to the total utility. Again consume about one more unit of apple. Now the total quantity of apple consumed is 5. Now the consume about the fifth apples. The total utility become the 5 apples become 55. So here we can again calculate the margin utility, that is change in total utility by consuming the 50 apples. Margin utilities became 50 minus 48 divided by 5 minus 4, it is 7. So the fifth apple, 7 utilities added to the total utility. Again consumer one more unit of apple. Now the total quantity of apple consumed now becomes 6. Now the six apples, the total utility became 60. Here we can again calculate the margin utility by using this formula, this 5. That means by consuming the sixth apple, the 5 utilities added to the total utility 55. Now the total utility becomes 60. Again the consumer about the 7th apples, then total utility becomes 63. So the marginal utility is 3. The again consumer about the 8th apple, the total utilities now become the 64. The marginal utility is now 1. By consuming the 8th apple, they only added 1 utilities to the total utility. So here we can see that the marginal utilities are diminishing. From the first apple, the consumer get the 15 utility. The second apples, the utilities now reduced to 13. The successive unit of apple consumption is giving the diminishing rate of marginal utility. So this is called as marginal utility. If further we going to add the apples, the total utility now becomes 63. So it's added negative point of utility. Here we going to draw the graph of total utility and the marginal utility. So first of all, I bought 1 apples. Then I get the 15 utility. So here I going to draw the graph of here y-axis showing the total utility and x-axis showing the unit of consumption. Again here the left side, right side, I'm going to draw the graph of marginal utility. Here the y-axis showing the marginal utility and x-axis showing the amount of the consumption. By consuming 1 unit of apple, I get the 15 utilities of total utility. Here I showing the 15 utility. So in margin utility, from the first apple I get 15 utility. So again I consumed one more unit of apple. Then here you can see that the second apple here are going to show the second apple's total utility now become 28. That means the 28 apple are here showing here. So the graph are 15 to 28. So the margin utility, that means the change in total utility that by consuming one more unit of apples, now it is 13. That means the first one the utility was 15. Again the second apples we get 13 utility. Now the total utility becomes 28. Now here we showing that the 13 utility, here the second apple we get 13 utility, the both apples we get the 28 utility. So it is showing diminishing. Again I consume the third apples. Total utility is 39. From the third utility, the third, here we going to show that this is the 39 we pointing in the graphs. So here we can say that the total utilities are increasing at a decreasing rate. Now the margin utility that derived from the third unit of apple, that is 11, that are showing here. Then again consumer bought one more unit of apples, the fourth apples. Now the total utility are became 48. That are showing in the total utility graph. The graph are increasing at a decreasing rate. In here we are going to show what is the margin utility graph. Here the fourth apples we get only 9 utility. From the fifth apples we added one more apple. Now the total quantities of apple become the fifth. The total utility here are 55. That are here showing here. The margin utility from the fifth quantity is and sixth quantities. That means how much the change in total utility by consuming sixth unit of apples. It is 5. The 5s are showing in the margin utilities here. Again consume about the seventh unit of the apples. Now the total utilities became 63. That here we are only changes 3 unit here. The margin utility, the seventh utility is 3. So on. From the eighth utilities, total utility are 64 and the margin utilities are 01. Further, we are buying a additional unit of apples. It will goes down the negative utility. That means it is the maximum utility that the consumer get buying the apples. So if we add one more unit of apple, the consumption, the utility will be negative. So here we can see that The total utilities are increasing at a decreasing rate, but the marginal utilities are decreasing. The first apples we get 15 utility. The second apple we will get only 13 utility, and third apple we get 11 utility. So on, it is decreasing. So here we are concluding the total utility and the marginal utility graphs. Total utility are increasing at a decreasing rate. Next we are going to discuss what is the EQ marginal utility. EQ marginal utility is the equilibrium point of consumer. The equilibrium point means it is the ratio of marginal utility with the price. If we buying a single product, it is equal to marginal utility of expenditure is equal to the ratio of the marginal utility to the price. That means marginal utility expenditure is equal to marginal utility of x divided by price of x. If you buy two more goods, the utility is equal to EQ marginal utility equation is equal to the ratio of marginal utility with price of x is equal to the ratio of marginal utility price x2.